Hi everybody, welcome. This video is a review of Chimamanda's latest fiction, Zikora, a short story. Like all Chimamanda's books, this was exceptional. It's perfect, Zikora is perfect. The only thing not perfect about it is that it had an end. It had to end. That's it. That's my whole review. Zikora, perfect, had to end. Don't mind me. Let's dive right in. I have a note here of everything I want to discuss, and don't worry, I'm not spoiling the book for you. After discussing my plenty talk, you just have to go read the book here. So I'm not here to give spoilers, I just want to talk. So first thing I want to discuss is the length, how long it took me to read the book. I've seen people that have read the book, that it took them just 30 minutes, some others just 1 hour, others 3 hours. But me, it took me 3 days to read the book. It's less than 30 pages. What's there to read? But I'm not a fast reader. I'm a very slow reader. I read word by word. I read every word letter by letter. I stop in between to try to picture the scenario, then continue reading. So it takes a lot of time for me to read. Really, I'm a very slow but steady reader. Slow but steady. Yeah, that's it. So I don't read for a living, so I have to do other things. And yeah, finally, last I got the book on Thursday, and this is Sunday night. That's why the lighting is terrible. This is Sunday night and I'm reviewing the book. So first thing I want to touch on is the name Zikora. So Zikora is the name of the book, and also the name of the main character, the protagonist of the story. And one thing I love about Chimamanda is that she puts in effort or so much thought in naming her characters. You don't hear, she doesn't give her main characters anyhow names, like regular names, People that bear Zikora, you hear people call them Zikora. Zikora doesn't mean anything. You have to draw the O, Zikora. One of my friends here, his name is also Zikora, and his own Zikora, because it could mean anything. Ziko is to show, or some Igbo dialects will say gosi, but then other Igbo dialects will say Ziko, so to show. And Ora is like everybody, the community, a group of people, whatever. So show people, just show, like show people. And my friend's name is Zikora Ifechuku. Show people God's light, show people the light of God. It's a very thoughtful name. You just sit down and be like, yo, in my life I just want to be a vessel through which God's light to shine on the world. So you're showing people God's light, and it's very thoughtful. Another character in the book that has a thoughtful name is Miliako. Miliako is like a river of wealth. Her other books, Purple Hibiscus has Kambili. If you know the meaning of Kambili, comment down below. I want to. Then there's Kainene. Kainene is for Half of a Yellow Sun. Funny enough, I've not read Half of a Yellow Sun. I only watched the movie. I'm going to read it pretty soon. And Kainene could double as Kainene Chukwanya. Then there is Ife Meluma. Damn, I think that's my favorite. Ife Meluma. Something that was made perfect. What name is more perfect than that? That's the main character of Americana. Then there is Ranyi Nodo. Ranyi Nodo is a very interesting name. If you know the meaning, comment down below. There is... Okay, I think my list is exhausted. But apart from Chimamanda's character, there's this other name, Igbo name, that I think it's my favorite name so far. And It's one little boy I met one time. I'm like, what's your name? He says Siobi. I'm like, okay, Siobi. Siobi is not a regular Igbo name, so what does Siobi mean? And he's like, Sio, the full name is Chimdin Tukwa Siobi. And I was just so taken aback by the thoughtfulness of the parents by naming him Chimdin Tukwasiobi. Like you don't hear that name anywhere. Your parents will have to sit down and be like, this is what my child's name is and it's everything. If you know the meaning of Chimdin Tukwasiobi, comment down below. I want to know my Igbo people. I mean, show yourself in the comment section. You're Igbo. Tell me what these names mean. So another thing I want to touch on Zikora is that Zikora is a very easy book to read. It's not difficult to read, yeah. I remember when I read Purple Hibiscus and I was talking to one of my cousins about it. My cousin was like, that book was so difficult to read. I'm like, how? And she was like, I beg, there's so much descriptions. You know, Chimamanda can describe she'll be describing that the yellow wall on top of the red blue. I mean, down to the texture of everything, and it was so difficult. Like, can we be moving forward? And at the time, I noticed it that I noticed it that it was somehow too much. But then I read Purple Hibiscus at 10, 11, I can't remember. But was it really difficult to read, or was I not a good reader at the point? But now I don't think anything changed, and I've not had the opportunity to read Purple Hibiscus a second time. I think I'll give it a try. So I've not had I think what happened is that I've not developed myself as a reader then. So I didn't have the imagination to like picture. But I don't think anything has changed in Chimamanda's style of writing. But I get to appreciate it more because those descriptions help your mental picture. It helps you do the work while you're reading to picture what's happening, exactly what the characters are doing and all that. So that's another thing I pointed out. Very easy to read. You're picturing what's happening and the clarity and everything. You don't go, oh, what does this thing mean and all that. Generally, the book personally it's not personally, sorry, not be me right now. It's not personally, but the book basically is telling a story of a girl, Zikora, or a lady basically, who, I mean, the book the book introduces us into a labor room. Like, a woman was going through labor, and from the labor room, Chimamanda takes us through her life, how she met this guy and got pregnant for this guy, and that's the whole journey. That's the book. Her pregnancy story and her dating, her period of dating of this guy that she supposedly was in love with, or still in love with basically. But I mean, she got pregnant and the story unfolds. So you read the book, you know what happened. So I'm not going to let you into it. And the descriptions were so vivid, talking about when she finally gives birth, babies crying for no reason, the whole issue with childbirth, and the whole how delicate the whole process is. And if truth be told, I'm actually very scared of childbirth. Like, that thing is that's part of the reason I think I hate periods. I hate those things. They come with all the cramps and stuff, and you're uncomfortable. Sometimes you're sick for a whole week because you're on your period, and that is just a tip of the iceberg of what labor and childbirth is. And I'm like, the thought of it gives me shivers, but that's fine. It's okay. Yeah, something that really got to me is when Chimamanda was trying to describe the nurses that attended to the lady Zikora in the delivery room. She described them as the bigger nurse and the smaller nurse. Like, no big deal. Get how she won't take explain at me again. See, one is big, one is small, take it like that. Bigger nurse, smaller nurse, end of story. And I love that so much. Like, There are sometimes you don't just go describing so much, like just the little you give would give it away. I remember then in secondary school we had two they were my seniors then, so two Sandras in one class, and for you to differentiate them we had to call one was very slim, she was like so slim, and the other one just had a little flesh more than the slim one, but dude, we had to call one Senior Sandra Slim and Sandra Fat. So like, hey, Senior Sandra Slim is calling you, you know the one that is calling you. Or when somebody says Senior Sandra is calling you, like, which one is this, Sandra Slim or Sandra Fat? So no time. And in that was in secondary school. In university too, we had classmates with the same name, Valerie. So one was really like big, the other one, I mean, not so small, but dude, big Valerie and small Valerie. End of story. Full stop. So I loved it when she did that. The bigger nurse, smaller nurse. We move. No time. And then I talked about Miliaku, another character in the story, and this Miliaku doubles as Zikora's cousin and best friend. And I wanted to point this out because if you have an Miliaku in your life, like somebody that represents what Miliaku is to Zikora, like you're not just lucky, you are blessed, because most of us either we don't find that kind of friendship, or I mean we find them and they are friends or best friends, but then for you to have a best friend in a family member, like that is something you rarely find, because I mean, you don't get to choose your family members, and most times the ones we get are the ones that annoy the hell out of us, and like whatever. That is why we seek refuge in other people, and we're like, this person is my best friend, they understand me more than my family. So for you to have family that understands you're blessed, really. So I wanted to point that out. So read the book to find out what exactly Miliaku does for Zikora and what bonds them, how they, I mean, because they also share in the story of, they also share experiences in relationships and pregnancy and stuff and all that. And that brings me to my next point: abortion. Chimamanda discusses abortion very boldly. She's like, it's abortion, let's talk about it. It's very bold storytelling. Reminds me of Bessie Head. I'm not going to call the name of the book, but it's a collection of short stories that Bessie Head wrote. If you know the book, the title of the book, comment down below. What my favorite story in the book is one that she told about people in jail, basically, and so they were discussing what brought them to jail. Two women, and one, she's like, she killed her husband and she has no regrets for it. And the husband was being such, I don't want to use a curse word. The husband didn't have sense, trying to bully her and her children and stuff, and she got tired, killed the man, and they arrested her. She went to jail and she's like, she's fine, she doesn't regret anything, and her children are safe with her neighbors and she trusts that they are going to be fine. And like, dude, I mean, telling stories of women being bold, I love that. So that was what Chimamanda did with abortion. I mean, it's not something, but it's not supposed to be a big deal, but it is, especially in this part of the world that we are in, Nigeria, where abortion is. Then again, there's this character, Auntie Neka. I'm not going to discuss what she is, but I mean, she's an interesting character in the book. But Auntie Neka is that name, Neka, is a typical auntie name in the Nigerian Igbo household, or unless it's just my family, but I feel every family has an Auntie Neka. My family does too, Auntie Neka. And I don't know if you're Igbo, does your family have an Auntie Neka? Neka is like an auntie name, every family should have an Auntie Neka. So yeah, what else? Okay, I wanted to point out where she talked about male during sex education class where males and females are separated. I don't know, they probably have separate sex education class, and it's like, you, how would the males have an understanding or knowledge of what happens in the female body or stuff like that. And I mean, it helps more than just having fleeting knowledge and then you don't understand what your partner is going through and stuff like that. Or when they say, oh, I missed my period, they're like, okay. Or when they're like, oh, I stopped taking my pills, you don't understand that that means that they can get pregnant at any point. That it doesn't make sense when men being like, oh, they're not aware of things happening in the life in the on happening with the bodies of their partners. And I mean, those that people should, these people are abroad people, we that were in Nigeria, we did not even quickly get sex education. Sha talk more of now having separate class of male and female. But another thing I want to discuss is that I don't think we're going to achieve much with the divide. Recently, not recently, but like 2 to 3 months ago, I attended a, a workshop basically. So at some point, one of the sessions was supposed to be, I think it's supposed to be youth empowerment, but they separated it, and it was like female women empowerment and men empowerment or something like that, and it didn't make sense to me. So the speakers they brought to now come and be saying, oh, as a woman you're supposed to know this, you know, the society is not fair to you, so you're supposed to work extra hard, kiniko. I don't know, I was not in the men's section, I don't know what they told them, but I'm like, yo, you shouldn't separate the class. If you're feeling like, okay, that something is wrong with maybe the society is not being fair to a particular gender, I mean, everybody should sit down and talk about it, and we hear everybody's views, because it is not a women's problem, it is a society problem. So everybody should sit down and talk about it. So I'm not in support of say separate the class for what. So I mean, I when the speakers, there were two speakers, when they finished talking, any question, I'm like, yo, I mean, you all spoke well, but I don't think we're doing it right. If there's something we're talking about, everybody has to sit down here and talk about it. If they're telling men, anyone, we sit down and hear from them, so that the both genders will know how to help each other by sitting down together and hearing talks about each other, you know. You are now more informed of, oh, this is what maybe something the male gender is going through. The female gender would be able to be like, oh, I mean, we know about this now, how can we help, or how can we make it better for society? The male gender would be like, oh, women, you're feeling like this, we're not aware that you're feeling like this, but okay, that was not the intention, but since this is the case, let's work together. So basically that's it. I'm like, sex education, please. I mean, sex education is very important. I think Nigerian schools should start it. I mean, you don't want people going to learn about sex from pornography or anything. At least they should have the correct information on what they should do and what they shouldn't do. So this brings me to the end of my review. I think I ended up talking of my own wahala more than the book itself, but that is not to review much about the book. Go read it. It's an excellent book, a beautiful book. It's not like this, you know, it's a small book, less than 30 pages. You read it, you enjoy yourself. So that's my sister's voice and family interference, so I have to leave now. Take care. Bye.